His breath honked of garlic, and he shifted his chair slightly closer towards her, so his thigh rubbed against hers. Charlotte shuffled her chair sideways in an attempt to escape. He'd clearly got stuck into the canapes in the break, and as he leaned over to pass her a drink, he managed to move the chair in her direction again. She shifted, scooting her bottom sideways. At this rate, she'd be sitting on the lap of the man on her left to avoid the one on her right, and that would presumably come with a whole heap of extra trouble. The man on his left turned, about to speak. That was when the revelation struck her. This was not what people meant when they said good things happen at the edge of your comfort zone. This was not living dangerously. "Thanks so much for being here tonight," she heard a voice from the stage as the flight instinct kicked in. If she didn't make a run for it now, she'd be trapped for the duration. All she had to do was pretend she had an urgent call or something like that. She pulled her phone out of her bag and made a show of tapping on the screen with an agonized expression, then pushed her chair back to make her exit. "Where are you off to?" The ruddy-faced man looked dismayed. "Got to make a call," she whispered, arranging her face into what she hoped was an expression midway between panicked and apologetic. All she had to do was make her way from one side of the room to the other, and freedom was beyond the huge wooden doors. "Sorry," she muttered, dodging between chairs and trying to ignore the tuts of disapproval. "So sorry," she said again, waggling her phone and making a face as if it was some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card. A security guard had noticed her navigating her way between the tables. He nodded her head sideways towards the door, giving her a conspiratorial wink and moving discreetly sideways, taking hold of the handle as if ready to shove her through at the last moment. There was a rumble of laughter, and she felt her cheeks stinging pink, conscious that the people at the table in front of her had half turned to look at her. She paused, squished between two chairs. "I suspect I might need a new speechwriter." She stopped in her tracks, eyes drawn upwards to the stage, where she knew, almost before she saw, that the speaker was none other than the handsome suit who'd walloped her with his chair earlier. His dark eyes fixed on her. He lifted an eyebrow, and she caught a fleeting smirk tugging at the edges of his lips before she ducked her head, dodged between the last two tables, and shot out of the door. When she'd left her little Highland village of Applemore that morning, she hadn't planned to make a rapid and furtive escape from the award ceremony. If she had planned, A, she'd have remembered her coat, and B, she'd have done it in the interval, not while the most handsome man in the room was making a keynote speech. When the nomination for Applemore Holiday Cottages business had arrived, her first instinct had been to sit down at the table and make a list of all the things she needed to do, because you know where you are with the list. Her second had been to have a minor panic about what to wear, because it had been so long since she'd left the village and its environs that she owned nothing other than her habitual wardrobe of jeans, cropped with flip-flops in summer, full length with battered DeBarry boots in winter, and a comfortable shirt, sleeves rolled up in summer, sleeves down, and a gilet in winter. "So, let me get this straight," Fiona, her right-hand woman, had said, resting her chin on a thoughtful finger and surveying her as they sat in the Applemore Farm Shop Cafe. "We've got a things-to-do list, a things-to-do if things go wrong list, a things-to-do if I run out of all the first things list, and a list of people to contact if something breaks down." She'd broken off a piece of croissant, looking at it with admiration for a moment before popping it into her mouth. Flaky pieces fell onto her jumper, and Charlotte itched to brush them off. Fiona had carried on eating, oblivious. "Your point being?" Charlotte shot her a level gaze, tucking her hair behind her ears, then lifting her chin. "I know all this stuff already. You are a control freak and very possibly a psychopath. I bet if we did one of those internet quizzes, you'd get about 95%. Fiona tipped sugar into a cup of coffee and stirred it, then licked the spoon absent-mindedly. She pushed a hand through her short, cropped salt and pepper hair so it stood up on end, the handmade silver ring she wore glistening in a thin shaft of winter sunlight. "You are obsessed with internet quizzes." Charlotte caught a glimpse of her sister Beth across the floor of the shop, arms full of wicker baskets she'd bought to refresh one of the shelving displays. "There's nothing wrong with being organised." Beth waggled her eyebrows in greeting, then disappeared into the little stockroom at the back of the shop.